Okay, I know it doesn't feel real, but after many years of waiting, this is the day we've been waiting for, and this is the day that I, and a lot of you, can finally say that I will finally have my Nintendo Switch 2. It is flippin' here, man. It is the morning of Wednesday, June 4th, which is the day before the official release of the Nintendo Switch 2. But of course, a lot of us who are maybe picking up our Switch 2s in person at a variety of different stores are going to be able to pick them up tonight. Some people it's going to be midnight. For someone like me on the west coast of the States, I'll be able to get it at 9 p.m. and actually have a couple of hours to play before going to bed and then waking up to work tomorrow morning. And that's kind of the key thing that I wanted to talk about. You know, I think those of us who live in the time zone I do, the west coast of the United States, we're very lucky that we get to pick it up so early in the evening, if you want to call 9 p.m. early, you know. Here where I live, there's still going to be some daylight in the sky by the time I'm walking out of my GameStop with a Switch 2 and a couple of games and a Pro Controller in my hand. So this video is a little tricky for me, and I'm really going to aim to make this short. I obviously, you know, just kind of wing it and I ramble in pretty much all of my videos. So I'm aiming to make it short. Maybe it turns out to be 20 minutes, even though I'm not planning on that. But it's worth noting, I mean, the last video I just posted the other day kind of already covered this topic, right? The idea of we're moving on from the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo is moving on from the Nintendo Switch. The Switch itself, the 2017 console and its two iterations, are no longer Nintendo's primary video game hardware on the market as of tonight/tomorrow on June 5th. We're all into the Switch 2 era now, baby. It's all Switch 2 going forward. Switch is next gen, really current gen. And the Switch, it's last gen. It's yesterday's news. It's technically the outdated old console. Now, as I also discussed in that last video, of course, the Switch will still get supported and still get games and still get made and purchased for a few more years. So don't mistake my words. I'm not claiming the death of the Switch 1 as of June 5th, 2025. But like I said, we're moving on. It's old gen. Now we're moving on to the next gen. So one element that I wanted to kind of talk about in this that's sort of an addition to that last video where I discussed the idea of the Switch 2 replacing the Switch 1 is kind of talking out and wondering how the Switch 2 launch is going to go, how well the system is going to be received, the initial flood of games that are going to come out, both today/tomorrow for launch day, and then in the subsequent weeks and months. Will it go down as historically fantastic as the Nintendo Switch did? And I think a key component to this is when you compare the two primary launch titles, the premier killer app games to play on the Switch 1 back in March 2017, and the Switch 2 today/tomorrow, obviously talking about Zelda Breath of the Wild versus Mario Kart World. Now, I actually plan on making a video sort of breaking down a comparison between the two as launch titles. They're obviously different genres, but just comparing which one maybe was the more successful launch title, so to speak, after I've had time to play Mario Kart World. So maybe that'll be a video I get to make in the coming week or two after I've had the Switch 2 and Mario Kart in my hands for a period of time. But going into tonight, going into the release of the Switch 2 and Mario Kart, I've discussed this before. I have no doubt that Mario Kart is going to blow me away because I love the franchise. I go back to the original game on the SNES and I've loved them all since. I think this one looks amazing because I love the open world kind of approach, and some of the new modes seem very exciting. I love the visual style. I love 24 racers. So much going on here to be excited. But as I have discussed before, if I could pick a launch title to play any new console with, especially a new Nintendo console with, it wouldn't be a racing game and it wouldn't be a multiplayer focused and an online focused game, okay? So I'm not necessarily saying anything negative about Mario Kart World as a game. I'm just talking about as the killer app first party Nintendo title. I wish it was something that was more of a single player adventure. And in fact, I even made a video about this a few weeks ago as well. I would have preferred, only talking about my tastes, I would have preferred if Donkey Kong Bonanza was the launch title and Mario Kart came later, so that I could have had this big, epic, open-world Donkey Kong adventure to play in the first days and weeks of my Switch 2 experience. But of course, I mentioned this in that same video. From a business perspective, Mario Kart's the smarter choice, right? So my preference might have been Donkey Kong, but let's be real, we all know why they chose Mario Kart, and it's going to work out fine for them. Which kind of moves me into the next part of this concept is, how will the Switch 2 perform? How well will it sell? How will people receive it? And despite all of the noise and the divisive topics out there, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't, I think the Switch 2 is going to be a big hit, right? Some of the early on numbers we were hearing, and forgive me because I don't actually know the hard numbers, because I don't live and breathe this stuff. My YouTube channel is just a little side project for fun I do in my free time. But I think that they were targeting in the range of 6 million or so units to be sold in like the launch day or the launch week, whatever that initial launch period is supposed to be. Whereas I believe the Switch one was somewhere in the 4 to 4.5 million range. You guys can correct me. I'll look up the numbers after this video. But I think that that's what we're looking at. And so if the Switch 2 is really going to hit this 6 million-ish range, then that would make it the largest launch of any video game hardware of all time, beating the original Switch, beating, I think, the PlayStation 4? I don't know how the PS5 stacked up, I don't remember. But when it comes to just people being excited to buy this thing, again, divisive controversies aside, people are excited, man. Even people who are haters are picking it up. You can see a lot of people talking about that online. And, like, I get it, man. And we also have to talk about Nintendo's great success overall in making the Switch 2 pretty available to most people. Yes, there are horror stories out there. There are stories from people who didn't get a chance to get theirs pre-ordered, and on the pre-order night, if you were ordering online, a lot of issues happened with websites and people getting pre-orders ordered and then they were getting canceled, and now there's rumors that they're getting uncanceled, whatever that means. People's carts kept emptying. A lot of people just couldn't get them secured in time and all these different things. But mostly people were able to get them, whether you went in person like I did or if you did it online. Nintendo then offered a bunch more through their website, so people got even more of them. That actually includes one of my good personal friends who got an email from Nintendo and she got hers pre-ordered that way. And now there's even more talk about stores having extra stock in stores for people to walk in. So on top of the fact that GameStops had anywhere from like 30 to 100 in store, the store I went to had 126. I made a video about that. So you had GameStops just overloaded with Switches for people to walk in and pre-order on pre-order day. But now we're hearing that maybe other stores, Best Buys, Walmarts, Targets, GameStops, have additional stock for anyone who's going to walk in tomorrow on June 5th to just try and buy a Switch 2 as well. And I told that to one of my other buddies who didn't get one, and so his plan is to try to get one via walk-in if it turns out this is true. So this is all to make the point that it seems like Nintendo did a better job than any other company over the last 10 or 15 years in the last few console launches, making a healthy stock available, which both curbs scalpers and tries to kill that business as much as possible, and makes them available to the actual gamers and the actual people who want to have a Switch 2 so that they can play it and not sell it on eBay. But that's just talking about the numbers and the sales and whatnot. Beyond that, we don't know how Mario Kart is going to review. We don't know how people are going to receive it. More than likely, it's going to review great and people are going to love it, even if there are some nitpicks and complaints here and there, because it's Mario Kart and they're just always awesome. You know, and it's going to sell like crazy as well. So Mario Kart's going to be a big hit. Donkey Kong people aren't as excited for. Personally, I'm way more excited for Donkey Kong than even Mario Kart. That comes out only a month later. Cyberpunk has a lot of news and attention. I am double dipping and buying a copy of that. And so, you know, 2 or 3 months down the road, how are we going to be looking back on the release of the Switch 2? Are people enjoying it in terms of its tech and the new Joy-Cons and the mouse features? How do they feel about Mario Kart and Donkey Kong and other third-party games that have released? How will people feel about, like, the Welcome Tour thing that's also releasing? How many units is it going to sell? You know, a few weeks to a few months down the road, we're going to be able to look at a pretty large snapshot of how the overall launch goes and how the system is received. Are people liking the Switch 2 or are they disappointed by it? Does the tech and the abilities match their expectations or does it underwhelm them compared to their expectations? I am somebody who pretty much knows what I'm getting in for, and I'm excited. It looks like everything I just need it to be, being that it's just another Switch. Would I have preferred a non-hybrid? Probably, because that's just more my speed than the hybrid, but I don't mind that it's a hybrid. I'm still going to fly with the thing, so that's a huge bonus. And when I see what it's doing, and I got Metroid coming, and Metroid's going to be in 4K, I mean, just get out of town. And it's got bigger Joy-Cons. You know, they're not more ergonomic, which sucks, but they're bigger, so that's nice. The screen apparently is amazing. And so I think that it's going to also alter how I play the Switch, in terms of maybe I play a little bit more handheld than I usually do. I'm excited. I think it's going to deliver everything I want it to be. It might not deliver everything for you or for a lot of other people. That's okay. We're all individuals. We'll see how it sells. We'll see how the games are. We'll see how people like it. Personally, I can't wait. So I think this is a good time for me to wrap this up. I think I managed to make this a fairly short video because in T-minus like whatever, I don't know, 12, 13 hours, I'm going to be having my Switch 2 in my hand, driving away from GameStop, driving home to get it all set up, probably play Mario Kart with my wife for an hour just to like soak in the goodness. And then the weekend is just a few days away, and I get to play more Switch 2 and more Mario Kart. So it just feels amazing to be right here on the cusp of this new generation starting. It happens today for me, and it happens today for a lot of you. So share your own expectations for the Switch 2, for the games, for the launch, for the sales. Are you getting your Switch 2 today? Wherever in the world you are, whatever country you're in, whatever time zone you're in, are you getting it today? At midnight your time or some other time your time? Are you getting it tomorrow? Or are you still waiting to get yours? Did you fail at getting it pre-ordered? Or have you been uninterested and you think it looks stupid and you're waiting to see it sell you on purchasing one down the road? Whatever you think, talk about it below. Thank you guys for tuning in all these years as we build up to today and to tonight. And I will see you guys on the other side of the Switch 2 launch. Thanks.